Hi, my name is Lily and welcome back to my channel. Please excuse if this video is not its usual quality. I'm testing out filming with my phone for the first time, so we're gonna have to see how that goes. Now, you may or may not know that I have been on somewhat of a book buying ban for a little while now. I mostly limited that to physical books and not buying more physical books, and that's because I have a rather large TBR and I was trying to get on top of it. I decided in December I was given some money back that I had been overcharged, and I decided to spend that little bit of spare money buying myself some books because I hadn't bought myself new books I really wanted in quite a while. So this is a book haul that is a mixture of me breaking my book buying ban briefly and also the gifted books, because I received so many books from some lovely online friends for Christmas. Now, I am still kind of on a book buying ban, but it's a different version to what I've been working with so far. I've started tracking what I'm hauling each month and what I'm reading each month using Notion. And now that I know the numbers, I'm going to try and make sure there's always a net decrease in my TBR month to month, so I'm not allowed to haul more books than I read. This is probably going to go quite well because I'm reading a lot more than I used to now that I live on my own, but it is going to be a little bit of a challenge because often I will buy myself books as a treat, so it's going to be interesting seeing how I cope with this. I think it's going to go a lot better than the blanket ban I was going with before, because that was just kind of not doing it for me because a blanket ban was kind of sad at times. So, all of that being said, I am about to show you all of the books that I purchased for myself in December, a couple of books I was given as review copies, and of course all the books my lovely friends gifted me. The first ones I'm going to show you are the books that I was sent by publishers to review. I requested both of these books specifically and got them both as physical copies, which I'm incredibly grateful for. The first one is The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. You can see what the cover's going to look like on the back here, but as this is a proof, it just has this promotional cover. This is a young adult novel. I believe it's going to be a thriller / mystery kind of thing. It's a contemporary. It's going to be adapted as a movie with Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things starring as the main character. The other book I requested is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is, I think it's the third book in the Brown Sisters series. They all stand alone as their own romance novels, but they are part of the same series following different sisters in the Brown family. This one I requested because Eve Brown, I think it's Eve, not the love interest, is autistic. The author and her publishers all reached out and said that they wanted some Own Voices autistic reviewers for this book, so I put my name forward and they said of course, and they sent me this physical copy, which is really great. If you are an autistic Own Voices reviewer, please do reach out to them. They have ebooks and physical books available. I'm really excited. I've been really getting into adult romances, and I actually recently read The Kiss Quotient, which is an Own Voices autistic adult romance. I'm really excited to see another autistic romance. I'm not sure if this one is Own Voices. I haven't seen anywhere, but as an Own Voices reviewer, I'm really excited to see this. And I think it's great to see more books just showing autistic people living their lives rather than it being all about autism, which I think is what this one seems to be more about. In this book, Eve's family are fed up of her acting childish. They tell her she needs to act her age and grow up. So Eve applies to be a chef at this bed and breakfast run by someone called Jacob. And Jacob loves running this bed and breakfast, and when he meets Eve, he's not really sure. In fact, he tells her absolutely not. But Eve accidentally hits him with her car and ends up having to help out at the bed and breakfast because he has a broken arm. And this is an enemies to lovers romance. Now, enemies to lovers is not my favourite trope, but I think this could go quite well. It sounds like it's going to be quite cute. I am also an Illumicrate subscriber, so I thought I would show you the Illumicrate books I received this month. I actually received November and December's books this month, so that's why there's a little bit of a higher count than usual. If you haven't received your November and or your December Illumicrate, please just skip until a certain time. I will put the timestamp here for you. In both November and December, we got a bonus book. November, I think it was because it was their anniversary, and then I think December we got a bonus book just because, I'm not sure. I have to say, November is the month that I was amazed by and I was most excited about. The two books I received in November, I had actually been in Waterstones that day, looking at them both and debating buying them. And then I got home and my Illumicrate was waiting on my doorstep and they were in the box and it felt like magic. The bonus book for November was Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and I'm so excited. I've heard so many people raving about this book. I am so excited to read it. This is a young adult or new adult fantasy. So this is about Bree. Her mum dies at the beginning of the book, so she goes to a high school for gifted students, I think it is. It's like a boarding school situation, I think. And when she arrives, she witnesses a magical attack, and this magical attack awakens her own magical powers, and she discovers something called the Legendborn. And now the Legendborn are said to be descended from the Knights of King Arthur's Round Table. And basically, Bree has to decide whether she wants to use her magic to join the Legendborn or fight against them. It just sounds so unique and so interesting, and I love the cover, and I've heard such amazing things, so I can't wait to read this one. I'm hoping to read it probably in January, but if not, soon. The main book for Illumicrate's November box was The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I actually had a review copy of this on NetGalley, and I never read it because I had some issues with NetGalley, and I've always wanted to read it, which is why I was genuinely considering buying it in Waterstones the day this arrived on my doorstep. And it sounds really interesting. This Illumicrate version has got some really beautiful red sprayed edges, and I think it's also got a signed bookplate. Oh no, it's actually hand signed by the author. This is a historical fantasy about the suffragette movement, and basically what would happen if the suffragette movement turned into a witches movement, and it's all about bringing witchcraft back. And it sounds amazing. It's meant to be very feminist. I believe it might also be a little bit queer, so I am very intrigued, and I've heard a lot of people raving about this. Now on to the December Illumicrate books. The bonus book in December was The Cousins by Karen M. McManus with black sprayed edges, and I've already read this book. I thought it was quite good. If you want to see my review, I'll link it down in the description below. I had a review copy of this, which is why I read it already. And yeah, it's a pretty good YA thriller. I finished it, so it's going to go straight on my bookshelves. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this copy because I don't think I'll reread it, but it was really funny when I opened it because I was like, oh, The Cousins. And yeah, I'm still happy that I got it, and if I hadn't had a review copy, I would have been really, really excited to read this. And the main book for December was The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. This is a young adult / new adult fantasy about a group of sorority sisters who are actually witches. So they're like a witches coven rather than a sorority, but they go under the banner of a sorority. And they all have their different motives, and some of them are trying to become the leader of the sorority, and others are just trying to discover their magical powers. But then a dark event happens on campus, and the girls have to come together to try and save their fellow sorority sisters. I've not really heard much about this one, but I'm really intrigued. I'm loving the witchy theme we've had lately in Illumicrate, and I'm very excited to give this one a go. This has beautiful pink sprayed edges, and then it has, this one definitely has a bookplate because I remember that. Yes, so it has a bookplate signed by both of the authors. Next, I wanted to show you the books that I purchased for myself. The first one is a pre-order that I actually forgot I'd pre-ordered at all, but I'm very happy that I did, and that is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This is the Waterstones exclusive with the turquoise sprayed edges, and it is hand signed inside. I absolutely love Ready Player 1. It's one of my favourite books of all time, and the audiobook is very, very good. It's read by Will Wheaton, and his acting is incredible, so if you love a good audiobook, Ready Player 1 is a really great one to check out. When I found out that Ready Player 1 was getting a sequel, I was a little bit nervous, so I actually haven't looked to see what this sequel is about and what happens, because I want to go into it completely blind and with no expectations, because that's exactly what I did with Ready Player 1. When I read Ready Player 1, I didn't know how amazing it was. I didn't know about the hype. I had just been recommended it by a bookseller, and that's kind of the vibe I want to go in with this. I've not read any reviews or watched anyone's reviews. In fact, my friend Beth from Booksnest has already read it, and she keeps asking me if I've read it yet because she also talked to me about it. But I kind of said to her, like, please don't tell me your opinions, because I am waiting until I read it to find out what other people thought. The next 3 books I actually went and purchased because the UK-wide lockdown had lifted, so shops were allowed to reopen, and I wanted to go to my local Waterstones to show some support, especially because I had the little bit of bonus money to spend. So I bought 2 paperbacks on the buy one get one half price, and then a hardback that was on offer. The first paperback I bought was This Winter by Alice Oz. It's signed using the Sign for Our Bookshops bookplate. and I've already read this and I thought it was pretty good. It's really sad, and I would say I was a little bit disappointed that there weren't trigger warnings in the front of the book like there are in the Heartstopper books. So if you have any sensitivity around eating disorders, be very wary going to this book because there's a lot of heavy discussion around that. But it is a really lovely book and I really enjoyed reading it. I read it on Christmas Eve and I thought it was a really great Christmas book to read in 2020 because it's kind of about a really rubbish Christmas and how Charlie and, oh, what's her name? Tori. It's about how Charlie and Tori kind of both have this really rubbish Christmas, and reading it on Christmas Eve, following on from the news that Christmas was cancelled for me because I'm in tier 4, was kind of like cathartic, and I really enjoyed it. It's a good little novella, and if you love Alice Oseman's writing, I would recommend it. The other paperback I bought was When Life Gives You Mangoes by Karen Getton, and did I get that right? Kareen Getton, by Kareen Getton. And the reason I bought this is because I actually saw the galley on NetGalley for this and I requested it and I got rejected, and ever since then I've been desperate to read this book because it sounds amazing. This I think is a middle grade and it's about amnesia. The main character, Clara, can't remember what happened last summer, and when a new girl called Ruby arrives in her town, her best friend Gaynor stops acting like her best friend, and as the new summer storm comes across, she starts to remember what happened the previous summer and has to face up to what happens. And it sounds really, really good and I'm so excited, and it's a really good short read, so I'm hoping to maybe get to this to boost my end of the year reading stats. The hardback I bought that day was The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. Sorry, I keep forgetting her name. This is a horror book, I think, and I think it's either young adult or adult, I'm not sure. But it's about a town where many years ago the leaders of the town executed 4 witches, and this girl Emmanuelle who lives there now finds out that her mother used to consort with the ghosts of these witches, and through reading some diaries and exploring the history she discovers that things are not as they seem and she might need to consort with the witches herself. And it sounds really dark and intriguing, and I've heard some really, really great reviews for this, and just the premise of it has really pulled me in, and it's really hard to explain it from reading the blurb, but there's just something about the premise that makes me want to give it a go. Moving on, I also bought The Diary of a Young Naturalist by Darren McAnulty. Darren McAnulty is autistic and he is kind of known to be the young naturalist, and people are kind of considering him to potentially be the next David Attenborough. He has a love of nature, and this is his diaries of him exploring the world and through the year looking at nature and his thoughts and feelings about it all, and I've heard it's amazing, so I'm very, very excited to read this and to just support more autistic authors. I also bought Middle Game by Shauna Maguire. This one I don't really know much about. I know it's about some twins named Roger and Dodger and that they're trying to become gods, I think. And the reason I picked this up is because Maddie from Books Browsing Blog keeps raving about this, and she has really, really hyped it up, and so have a few others. So I'm very, very intrigued to see what it is and see how good it is. It's a bit of a chunker, so I'm probably not going to read it this year, but I'm very excited to now own a copy of this. The final book that I purchased is perhaps the one I'm most excited about having bought, and that is A Song of Wraith and Ruins by Roseanne A. Brown. Remembered that off the top of my head, yes. So this one is a young adult fantasy, and look, oh, the cover's so shimmery. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by looking at the shimmer, but this one I've been trying to buy for so long. Anytime I got Waterstones vouchers or Amazon vouchers, I kept checking and it kept going out of stock. I was so mad. And then my boyfriend and I were in Reading shortly before we went back into lockdown, and it was raining, so we were like, oh quick, let's run into Waterstones and shelter while the big downpour passes. And we wandered to the young adult section, and lo and behold, they had a copy of A Song of Wraith and Ruin, and I had a Waterstones voucher, so here we are. And I am so hyped to read this one. This one I've heard such amazing things about from literally everyone I know that's read it, so I cannot wait to read this. I really struggled to explain what happens in this one, and the blurb is really hard to summarise. If you're interested in what it's about, please just look it up because I'm not going to be able to summarise it very well. Now, finally, I'm going to talk to you about the books that I was gifted, and I want to say thank you so much to all of my online friends for gifting me books. I am so incredibly grateful. These are the only books I received for Christmas. I didn't get any from any family and friends because they wanted to buy me something a bit different this year. So I'm super grateful, and I'm so excited to read all of these. They all came from my wish list, so they're all ones I'm very excited about. Unfortunately, 2 are kind of buried right now due to Christmas unpacking, so I thought I'd talk to you about those 2 first. The first one is A Pocket Full of Stars by Asha Busby, I think, or Aisha Busby. It will be here. I'm really sorry, I'm struggling to remember the surname. But this one I was given by my Secret Santa at work, and it came from a wish list as well. And this is a middle grade. I don't know much about it, but I've heard really good things, and it was one of the books I think that was suggested for Believeathon in November, which is why it was on my radar, and I never did end up competing in Believeathon, so I'm very excited to read this one. The other one is Fever Crumb by Philip Reeve. This was gifted to me by Elise from The Petite Punk, who of course everyone I mentioned will be linked down below. She is so sweet that she sent this to me. This is the prequel, or the first book in the prequel series to the Mortal Engines Quartet, and the Mortal Engines is one of my favourite series. It's one of my favourite like fantasy worlds, so I am really excited to read the prequel series. I've heard it's incredible. Now, of the ones that I could dig out, the first one is The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This was gifted to me by Jen from Jenny Lee Reads, and I think that's her handle. If it's not, I'm really sorry, Jen. But this one I was so surprised by. Jen had left me a comment to say that she was gifting me one of her all-time favourite books, and I kind of know Jen as a sci-fi reader, so when a fantasy book showed up, I was really pleasantly surprised. And this one I've heard really great things about. A lot of people have been reading this year, so I am very intrigued because I've heard so much hype lately. For most of these gifted ones, I'm not going to summarise. Because they've been gifted to me, I haven't recently looked at the premise of all of them, so if I know the premise, I will tell you. If not, then I will just move on quickly because I don't want this video to become hours long. Next up is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I hope I got that title right. This was gifted to me by Rachel from Rachel Reads, and this was a really surprising one. I have wanted to read this for a really long time, and my high school librarian was trying to convince me to read it for the whole time she knew me. So it's been many years coming, and I'm very excited to give this one a go. I believe this is about a crew on a spaceship that are travelling for many years to reach a new planet, and it's about their relationships while they're on the ship. Next is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This was gifted to me by Beth from Books Nest. Thank you so much, Beth. This one I heard about a lot over Halloween. A lot of people seem to be reading this one. This is historical, and I think it's an adult book. It's a modern classic, I know that much. From what I understand, it's about a woman who marries a man and moves into his house in like kind of the period drama age. I don't really know, but basically he had a previous wife, and everyone in this house, all of the staff, loved the previous wife, Rebecca, and this new wife, who is unnamed in the book, is kind of living in her shadow. It sounds very good, and it sounds very creepy from what people have said, and I'm really excited to read this. I'm not sure when I'm going to get round to it. I might wait until the nights get shorter because I'm very easily spooked living alone, but this one I'm very excited for as well. I was also gifted Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch by my friend Connor. This one I have heard about from Hayley in Bookland, who reads a lot of adult romance, and this is one of her favourite adult romances, and I believe it was one of her highest rated at one point, and she really loves some later ones in the series as well, because there's a whole series of like different locations around the world, and I'm very excited for this. I've heard it's really sweet and cute, and I'm very interested to read a adult romance set in Italy. Next up is The State of Grace by Rachel Lucas. This one is another Autistic Own Voices book, and I'm so excited to read it. This is young adult, and it's about a girl called Grace who thinks that her life is pretty good and everything is sorted, and then one day she kisses a boy and everything falls apart. I am kind of falling out of love with young adult contemporary, but this one sounds really cute and intriguing, and I'm very excited to read about a young autistic girl and sort of see what I see of teenage me in her. I was also gifted Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. This might have been the one that made me squeal the loudest when I opened it. I have been trying to get this for myself for such a long time. Like before, like A Song of Wraith and Ruin, every time I had a voucher I was trying to buy it and it kept going out of stock because it's been so popular, and I'm so excited to have this. This was gifted to me by my friend Charlie, and I literally messaged her and was like, Charlie, oh my god, this made my day. It's a young adult fantasy with like a necromancy element, I think, and the main character accidentally raises the ghost of the popular boy at his school who died recently instead of the person he was trying to raise, and the main character is transgender and it's an Own Voices transgender book, and the reason he's done this is because all of the men in his family have this power and he's trying to prove that he does as well. I also received Contagion by Terry Terry. This was gifted to me anonymously, so I don't know who gave it to me, but I'm very grateful. Terry Terry is one of my favourite authors. I really loved the Slated series, so I've been wanting to try her other books for a while now. I'm not sure if I'll read this one immediately because Contagion is, unsurprisingly, about an epidemic. It's about someone going missing in an epidemic and other people trying to find her, and in doing so they have to kind of go into the nitty-gritty of what happened with the epidemic. Another one that got me really excited was Cursed, which is an anthology. This was gifted to me by Brooks from Brooks Books, and I love this concept so much. It is a horror anthology and it has stories from two of my favourite authors, Neil Gaiman and Christina Henry. This has been really high up on my wishlist for a long time. The reason I haven't bought it yet is because I was going to buy it when Christina Henry was coming here for her tour, but then obviously it got cancelled by COVID, so I cancelled my pre-order for a while because I was trying to save money, and I kept saying to myself, when she comes back on tour I will buy it, and obviously that's not happening anytime soon, so I'm so happy I get to read it anyway, and when she does eventually come back for another tour I will take it and get it signed. And the final book on this marathon of a haul video is Convenience Store Women by Sayaka Murata. You've probably heard lots about this, and for good reason. I've heard it's incredible. This was gifted to me by my friend Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots, and I was really excited. You could get different versions of the cover, so obviously I got the pink one, and the reason I'm excited for this is because the main character is coded autistic, and I think it's also Own Voices, but I'm not sure. And it's very short, so I'm hoping to also read this one as an end of the year reading stats boost. I've heard some really great reviews about this from great people, and I just really want to read about autism in different countries and how it affects them in different ways. And I've heard this is a very unusual book, so I'm very interested to see what happens. That was a long video. That was a lot of books, I'm very aware. I think it's 20 something, but I'm not entirely sure. And that's just the physical ones. I haven't actually bought that many ebooks, but I have bought a few audiobooks in the sales, which I don't really count as much, but they don't count because they're not physical. That's what I'm telling myself. But anyway, I am so excited to read all of these books, and I feel so lucky to have been gifted so many. Thank you so much to everyone that gifted me books. I tried my best to gift everyone back as well, so I really tried, and I did make sure to reach out to everyone. So if you did gift me a book and I didn't reach out to say thank you, please do let me know. I'm not snubbing you or ignoring you. I just forgot in the mess and chaos that was Christmas in the UK. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. Let me know down in the comments if you have any thoughts on any of these books, or if there's any you think I should be reading first. If you want to leave me a comment to let me know you are here, please leave me a little Christmas tree or regular tree emoji to kind of call out the last few days of the Christmas period with me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!